Welcome along to the deep dive. We're here to take those complex global stories and, well, really break them down so you can get a clear picture fast. Today we're looking at something deeply compelling, often missed, the ongoing dispute over the Chagos Islands. We want to unpack the history, the international law side of things, and crucially, the human rights story of the displaced Chagosian people. We'll connect some dots, maybe reveal a few surprising things, and show why this remote spot is actually a major international issue. And helping us navigate all this is our expert.
Great to be here. It's definitely a topic worth digging into.
So first off, maybe just orient us. The Chagos Islands, probably not a household name for everyone. Where are they, and why is their location so, well, significant?
Right. So imagine the Indian Ocean. The Chagos Archipelago is a group over 60 small islands, smack bang in the middle, sort of halfway between East Africa and Indonesia. And the largest one, Diego Garcia, that's key. It hosts a huge U.S. military base.
Okay. Strategic location.
Exactly. And here's the controversial bit. The U.K. actually detached Chagos from Mauritius back in 1965. This is just before Mauritius got its independence in '68. Now, many argue this move was totally against the decolonization rules back then.
Yeah.
Basically illegal under international law.
And the people who lived there, the Chagosians, what was their story in all this?
Yeah, that's the really tough part. Between about 1968 and '73, they were forcibly removed, kicked off their own islands. We're talking, maybe 1,500, possibly 2,000 people, deported, sent to Mauritius and the Seychelles, and many just ended up in, well, grinding poverty. It's often called strategic colonialism, Cold War thinking making way for that UK-US base.
Just forcibly removed. That's quite something to get your head around.
Mm.
So jumping forward to today, where does this stand legally now on the world stage?
Well, there was a major development in 2019. The International Court of Justice, the ICJ, they gave an opinion. They ruled the UK's administration was unlawful, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Said the islands should be returned to Mauritius.
And the UN backed that up.
Oh, strongly. The UN General Assembly voted overwhelmingly in favor. I think it was something like 116 nations supporting Mauritius.
Okay, so a clear ruling from the ICJ, strong UN backing. But how did the UK react? And what does this tell us about how international law actually works, or doesn't?
Yeah, that's the sticking point, isn't it? The ICJ decision, technically it was advisory. It carries huge moral weight, political weight, sure, but it's not enforceable like a national court order. So the UK, while acknowledging it, hasn't complied. They shifted tack in 2022, started talking about a negotiated settlement, but, and this is crucial, those talks specifically exclude Diego Garcia.
So the base is off the table.
Seems that way. It just shows how vital that base is seen for U.S. military stuff, Middle East, Asia, geopolitics overriding the legal finding, essentially.
Let's refocus on the people, the Chagosians themselves. What's their situation like today? Legally? Socially?
It's still incredibly difficult. Many are effectively stateless, or they have very limited rights where they ended up, Mauritius or even the UK. Some did get British citizenship back in 2002, but that didn't mean they could go home. Their land wasn't restored. You've got generations now born in exile, and UK courts. They've repeatedly blocked attempts to return, usually citing security concerns around the base.
Was there ever any compensation, any attempt to sort of make amends financially?
There was, back in the 80s. Some money was paid out. But honestly, critics call it paltry, totally inadequate, and often it came with strings attached, like having to renounce any future claims. It really didn't cover the cost of starting over. It's just a classic example of how these old colonial policies cast such a long, painful shadow.
So what is it the Chagosians want now, after all this time?
Fundamentally, it's the right to return, to go back to their homeland, live with dignity. They've put forward ideas, phased returns, ways to preserve the environment, even models for coexisting with the base. They're looking for justice, not the impossible.
Taking a wider view then, why should someone listening care about this small group of islands? What are the bigger stakes globally?
Oh, it's huge. This is a massive test case, really, for international justice, for post-colonial redress.
Yeah.
I mean, if powerful nations can just ignore rulings like the ICJ's, ignore the UN, what message does that send? Especially when the global south is pushing hard for, real decolonization to be finished. And for small island states, especially facing climate change, issues of sovereignty, territory, identity, they're all tangled up. This matters deeply.
How have other countries lined up on this?
Mauritius has strong backing. India, for instance, sees the Indian Ocean as vital strategically. Many African nations, too, they view it as unfinished decolonization business. There's a lot of support.
Okay, so it feels like an impasse, but are there actually realistic ways forward, solutions on the table?
There could be. People talk about things like a joint sovereignty model, maybe. Mauritius gets sovereignty, but the U.S. keeps the base under a new agreement. Phased resettlement on some of the other islands, perhaps, it's possible. But look, it needs real political will from the UK, the US, Mauritius, and crucially, the Chagosians have to be central to any solution. Their voices must lead.
Do you think realistically we might actually see Chagosians going home in our lifetime?
I'm actually optimistic. I think a return is possible if the pressure keeps up. That ICJ ruling, the UN vote, the incredible persistence of the Chagosians themselves, it's built real momentum. This story isn't finished. Not by a long shot.
Well, thank you for taking us through that complex story. It's clear this fight over the Chagos Islands is about so much more than just territory. It really hits at human dignity, the rule of international law, and that fundamental idea that people shouldn't just be pieces on a geopolitical chessboard. Maybe something for all of us to think about. How does this Chagos case really show that tension playing out between old power dynamics and our evolving ideas about international justice? Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.